in a way, it's kind of the same thing when you're with your bourbon journey. You have to start with something basic. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dan.
I'm Ryan.
This is Bourbon Sauced, and we've got another episode here for you. We are going to start this year off by talking about best bourbons for beginners. And so, without further ado, why don't you show us your first bourbon that you would suggest for a beginner?
Absolutely. So, just to give a little insight on this, we picked 3 beginner bourbons blindly, so neither of us know what the other picked, but we picked 3. So I'm going to go with, and excuse this one, it's currently empty, but it's going to be Bulleit Bourbon. All right, this was my absolute starter bourbon, first bourbon I really got into. I love Bulleit Bourbon. The 10-year and then the Black Label are 2 of my 2 favorites of mine for all-around good-to-go bourbons. I would say I wouldn't recommend the 10-year as a starter, so just get the straight normal Bulleit Bourbon, orange label.
This is pretty much everybody's go-to first, and it's Buffalo Trace. You can't really go wrong. For $35, it's a great starter bourbon. It's sweeter. It's not going to kick you in the teeth like a rye would. So I just feel like a Buffalo Trace is really a good beginner bourbon. But that's just what I'm thinking for my first one.
You know what, Dan? I would agree.
Oh, would you?
I would.
Okay.
You know why I would agree?
Because you picked that?
So my number 2 bourbon pick is going to be Buffalo Trace. Yes, right there. A little bit of Buffalo Trace for you, ladies and gentlemen. My number 2 pick. Thank you very much.
So for my number 2, I'm going to go Evan Williams Bottled in Bond. Again, this is a inexpensive bourbon. So if you're worried about your pocketbook, this is budget friendly and it is tasty. We've got a few friends of ours that are also fans of the Evan Williams Bottled in Bond. It comes in about $30, sometimes maybe $40, but it's a good one to start with. It's not going to kick you in the teeth again. It's easy to drink, and you can share it with your friends. So for me, Bottled in Bond, Evan Williams.
It's going to have a little more palate testing than your typical, but I think as a beginner bourbon, you can rock it pretty well. So
yeah,
I think
and that one's 100 proof, so it's a little bit more proofy.
Yep.
So it's going to be a little stronger than like Buffalo Trace, which is a little less proof, but still, I think it's pretty flavorful for a good beginner. What's your third?
I agree. My third is going to be none other than Eagle Rare.
Oh, we need a refill on that.
I've got 2 other bottles up there.
All
But
right.
Eagle Rare is a good pick for beginner bourbon. I do remember at one point in time how people literally would give you shit. Oh, you like Eagle Rare? And now it's allocated and everybody's like, oh, it's so good. And I'm like, really? Really? Now you want to jump on
it's
that?
still a $20 to like $40 bottle.
About 45 MSRP is what it is right now. And I would still pay $45 for it.
Yeah.
It is not a $100 bottle.
No.
But
no. If
now
somebody's trying to charge you $100, you better run for the hills.
You know what I have decided Eagle Rare is? It is becoming the Alabama of bourbon. People are jumping on the bandwagon.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I would buy that for $1.
What is your third, sir?
All right. Well, my third is one of your favorites.
You know, I would like to say I have so many favorites, but I really don't. Oh.
So I went with the Wilderness Trail, and this is the weeded bourbon. And I found this by accident one day, and it quickly became a favorite in the house.
You
It's
actually gifted me a bottle.
I did.
Yeah, you had 3 bottles, and you said pick one. I said, I'm taking this one.
Yeah, I had, I think I had Elijah Craig, this, and I forget what the third bottle was, but it was like between my buddy that was in town and Jenkins, and then you and myself, and I didn't really care because I knew all 3 bottles were going to be delicious. But
I snatched that immediately.
Yeah,
I don't know why. Other than it being called Wilderness Trail, maybe, and me being like the rugged lumberjack, maybe.
I
but
think
I
it's just
took it immediately.
and it being a Kentucky straight and
Yeah.
you being from Kentucky, it kind of sung to you. So, and I've stuck by this brand. And anytime anybody asks me about a bourbon, I usually reference Wilderness Trail as one of the bourbons that I suggest people to try out because, especially their wheated one, it's really good. People that are starting out with bourbon, I suggest all the time go to a wheated because it's sweeter and it's a little easier on those people. It's more forgiving.
You know, I will caveat because I love what you just said. Wheated is 100 times easier because it is sweeter.
Mm-hmm.
But I also have heard, you know, we've heard other people be like, well, I don't recommend a wheated bourbon for starters. But I honestly, right there with you, wheated is a good bet to start with because it brings you in on a smoother, sweeter bourbon profile.
Right. And it's better than saying, hey, you know what? I suggest you start off with like, I don't know, Lux Row, right? And it's got a bit more rye in that mash bill, and it's a little bit harsh for people. Ryes are like more experienced drinkers.
I'm just saying, if we gonna start somebody off with Lux Row,
Yeah.
they ain't drinking bourbon anymore.
No, they're
That flavor profile, I'm telling you,
it's strong.
Woof.
Yeah,
Like,
it's a strong one.
I'm not saying it's a bad bourbon, but that flavor profile, you got to get your palate in tune. Like, you got to get right with Jesus. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. That one's definitely something that you have to work into. So now that we've exposed us these beginner bourbons, let's go ahead and pour ourselves some of this Eagle Rare, and then we'll talk about it.
So you're not gonna pour? I see what just happened there. He doesn't have the covers off of those, so he doesn't want to pour those.
Yeah.
So he
and
wants.
you said as soon as we get rid of this, we'll go get another one.
That
so
means I gotta hunt another bottle. Dang.
oh no, we
right.
gotta hunt.
Oh, I know. I have to go on a bourbon hunt. Oh.
Very good. Very fine. 369, damn good time. Oh, it's damn she's fine. Oh, that's what I said the other day at work. I said damn good time, and Chris was like, "What? Isn't damn she's fine?" I was like, "Ooh, you might be right. I might be wrong."
And everybody gets to witness a bottle kill on the show.
Bottle kill. Nothing wrong with that.
Let's see.
Oh yeah, that's. Nope, couldn't get it. It sounded almost like a little wet fart.
I was about to say, that sounded a little wet there, buddy. That sounded a little wet.
I mean, it is a wet cork, so if it didn't go in. So while we're thinking about it, the internet is full of ideas as to what they think are great bourbons for beginners. And one of the sources that I found has Four Roses, which we didn't recommend on the list as the first choice to give people. What do you think about Four Roses?
It depends on the Four Rows. If we're talking straight bourbon Four Rows, absolutely not. Nope, not happening, Captain. And you can call Jackson Haskell in Wyoming right now, and he will tell you to your face that Ryan does not like Four Roses straight bourbon. Okay. Now, if we're talking Four Roses small batch, Four Roses single barrel, I'm game all day. And I mean all day, sir. All day, I'm game. The bottle speaks for itself. I'm game all day.
Well, that makes sense. I like Four Roses, but it's not my favorite.
Which Four Roses does it say?
It just says Four Roses. It doesn't say categorically which Four Roses. It just says as a brand. So this is based on brand association, which brands they think.
Now, I will say that is an interesting thing, right? Because you can do brand association and say, well, I say this brand or this brand, but bottom line, just like I said with the bullets, right? Mm-hmm. I don't recommend a beginner bourbon person trying beginner bourbons to pick going by Bullet 10-year or Bullet Black Label. Right. I recommend you start with Bullet, just straight bourbon whiskey if you're going to start with Bullet bourbon.
I'm kind of shocked that you didn't pick a Knob Creek to go with the Bullet.
You know, I was so close because we have the Knob Creek. I have the Knob Creek 9-year up here, right?
We got 9, 12, and 18.
Right, but
we're missing the 15.
9 is your starter, right? I was so close. I was so close. But Buffalo Trace actually beat it out. because Buffalo Trace was going to be my third until you showed it.
Which is funny.
And then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to lead with this because I'm just going to caveat.
Yeah, why not?
So, I mean, that goes back to our synchronage.
Yeah, we're synchronized. I know that you have a lot of other favorites too, and I'm kind of curious as to why you didn't do Willie's Distillery as a good beginner bourbon.
Because Willie's is not a beginner bourbon.
You don't think so?
Not
Even
at
though
all.
it's really good?
Not at all.
Or even like, I'm surprised. Are you surprised that I didn't do a Kentucky Owl?
No.
Really?
I'm not surprised.
Okay.
And the reason I say I'm not surprised is because obviously you all watched our Weller's release last Wednesday, you would have caught that our palates have, they progress and they grow,
they evolved,
right?
Yeah.
They grow, right? Neither Willie's Bighorn or Kentucky Owl Confiscated, in my opinion, had we started trying those earlier in our bourbon journey, I feel like there would have been a different outcome.
I agree.
Because our palates weren't refined enough. Now, I will say both Kentucky Owl Confiscated and Bighorn Bourbon are a smoother, sweeter bourbon, but there are still a lot of other flavors and notes within that sweetness.
Yeah.
That if your palate's not ready for it, it's kind of sensory overload. So
okay,
so that would be me. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess it's the same point. That's why I didn't pick any of the E.H. Taylors too. I feel like E.H. Taylor is something that you have to kind of work into. You got to get a little bit more dynamic. And as you've had more bourbons, and it's like, okay, I'm ready for something that's not necessarily like you start off with kids and then you go to teenager and adulthood, but in a way, it's kind of the same thing when you're with your bourbon journey. You have to start with something basic.
I mean, you literally just said it. It's basically the military crawl, walk, run.
Yeah, and for me, it's like, why would I throw? I don't know, like Angel's Envy, right? I would never start somebody off with Angel's Envy because it's very dynamic, like you were saying with some of the Willie's. It's good. It's got a dynamic profile to it. Same with Blade and Bow and some of these other ones that we do like Chicken Cock. I love when we could just throw cock in there.
Right.
It's okay.
So I do want to say this because you brought up Blade and Bow, which is not bottled in bond, but for whatever reason it made me think Heaven and Hill bottled in bond, right? So Dan picked Evan Williams bottled in bond earlier, right? That is absolutely the only bottled in bond I have ever had, and at this point we have both had a plethora of bottled in bonds. Like, it has become my life's journey as far as the bourbon life goes to find and hunt out toasted and bottled in bond bourbons, right? The Evan Williams is the only bottle in bond I would ever recommend to a beginner.
Oh, for sure, for beginners. Okay, I was wondering where you're going with that, because I was like, I like a lot of different bottle and bonds, because
bottle and bonds I have never had a bad bottle and bond. I have never had a bad toasted, but I would never recommend a bottle and bond to a beginner other than the Evan Williams. And that for me is right on the line.
It is, and that's why I picked that as a beginner one, because it's like, for a beginner bottle and bond, that's as low brow as I'd probably go.
Yeah.
Like I don't know.
I mean, I'm out of bourbon. I got a bad liver. We've been out of bourbon.
Oh, you're out of bourbon too?
Yeah, we've been out of bourbon.
You want to pour something weird?
No, we got.
Are you sure you don't want to pour something weird?
When we say weird, you know what? What else do we got close?
I think that's on the docket to do later.
It is on the. Yeah,
Fact.
I know what you want to pour.
Yeah.
Why don't we actually? You know what? Let's do this because you already brought it up. Or you already brought it up.
The four
just for our cheers. Yeah, just for our cheers.
Fine.
All right. And a silence falls over the crowd as he stands up. Is he gonna pull it out correctly? Let's see.
America.
And a roar.
That
We'll
was
see how the cork
solid.
goes back. We'll see how the cork goes back.
That was fucking solid. It sounded so good. That was some EMR shit right there. I was like
I know,
a kiss. Like a kiss.
Right? That was a snuggle hug
That was a
right
good.
there.
That was a good bourbon kiss.
All right, now let's see how it goes back in real quick, and then we'll do our cheers and close this out.
All right.
Lines up for it, and
Well, it wasn't too bad.
That's
It was
a
like
little-
a magazine going in a gun, or a clip going in a gun, as the Democrats like to say.
it was definitely not like nails on a chalkboard
I
last
don't like that.
Wednesday.
I don't like that.
Like last Wednesday when I drugged the
This smells.
what is the tray across the counter, and it was like.
Oh yeah, the Agent Or counter for the flights. That was nails on a chalkboard
Oof.
for sure. And I was like,
All right, it's all floor's all yours, sir.
I don't like this.
This is 4 Roses.
I know, but I don't
Single
like
bar-
it. It smells weird. Cheers to you.
It smells good.
Cheers to me. Cheers to those that came before me and after me. But if you guys like this and you want to see more of the beginner journey, stick with us because we've got more coming, and tips and tricks and things, and we're gonna keep it weird for these next few ones. So if you would like to see more, please subscribe, like, and comment below. Until next time, get sauced and drink your favorite beverage. Cheers.
Cheers.